Hello, my friends. I have a small tidbit that is small but mighty today for you. So, oftentimes I hear people say, when we're in recovery and we hear the term, it's just my brain or it's just my limbic system, we often feel like that means we have complete permission to do whatever we want and we don't have any responsibility at all. We can just go and eat all the things and do all the things and etc. So if you have done a brain rewiring program, either DNRS or Gupta or even lightning process, anything like that, I want you to reframe that statement, because the science that we learn in those processes, whatever program you take, is quite the opposite of how the limbic system takes that phrase with this, where it's like, oh, that just means I have, get out of jail free card. So what this actually means is I have a cross-wired trauma loop associated with an activity, a food, a person, a place. And it's important that I elevate my mood while I'm exposing myself to it, increase the amount of exposure slowly, make sure that I redirect after the exposure and elevate my mood, whatever tool you're using. And the last but not least, this one is left out of all the programs I've seen. I've never seen anyone else teach this, so I want to share this because this is the key for success for a lot of people with incremental training when they haven't had any success before. And it's this: if you are incrementally training, but when you do your incremental training, your nervous system is dysregulating during your exposure to the thing, whatever the thing is, whatever you're doing, then your limbic system is still getting the repeated message that activity is not safe. I'm going to use a really basic one because this was one that I had for me, and it's one for a lot of my clients, and that's standing up. At the beginning of recovery, every time I stood up, my nervous system would dysregulate, and that's pretty normal. And for a lot of people, what they'll do with their incremental training is they'll then stand up, and then they'll do, stay standing for a while and do a round. But as soon as they stand up, the nervous system dysregulates and then stays dysregulated, and you're getting a message from inside of your body, your limbic system is, that this activity is not safe because you're feeling dysregulated, and the feeling of dysregulation is inherently a feeling of not being safe. So the key to successful incremental training is learning how to utilize your focus on something positive to anchor your nervous system in a more regulated space, so that, for example, every time when I was in the early stages of recovery that I would stand up, I would make sure that I locked eyes with like a table or a chair or a ray of light somewhere, something that was beautiful, and I would really get my nervous system engaged in the experience of it and really stay honed in and locked in and really let go of any thought of what my body was doing. So because standing up is an autopilot thing, but every time my limbic system was like, oh no, standing up means we're going to experience pain, and that means we're going to dysregulate. So I had to really let go of the thought of standing up, let go of the thought of the future or what was going to happen next, or there being a future, get really immersed in the present moment, really get engaged with either music, but I did a lot of visual early on, or both, either way, and be so immersed in that experience and that focused engagement with something that's steady and positive kept my nervous system regulated while I stood up, so that the experience was just, I stood up. That's it. That's the experience now that I was getting, my limbic system was getting every time I stood up, was we stood up. So that, along with, same thing with walking for me, same thing with driving, same thing with food, particularly walking and driving. A lot of times it's the physical things. But I've had clients who had made no progress with their incremental training for like a year, and then they start doing this and they start seeing progress, because in order for the association and the limbic system to change, you do need to have that regulation happening while you're doing the activity. So I just want to drop you guys this very short nugget about that, and remind yourself that whenever you hear the phrase, it's just my limbic system, what that means is it's rewirable, and it's important that I take into account my training zone, mood elevation, nervous system regulation, and do things in a methodical way, elevate my mood afterwards, and it's going to rewire. It doesn't mean I get to do whatever I want whenever I want, and there will be no consequences to those choices if I make them, because there will be. If you do not honor your training zone, you are going to be outside of it, which is not a fun experience. So this is my offering for you today, and I hope that this helps some of you with making some progress where you may have been stuck. That is always my wish. So much love to you all, my friends, and I will see you soon.